Hey guys, before we hop into this game, I just want to thank you really quick for stopping by this video. Our YouTube editor slash manager Will has been doing an excellent job putting up content almost every single day. And the best way you could thank him for doing that is by liking this video, leaving a comment down below for him, or just subscribing to the channel. Enjoy the game. Oh boy, do I have a weird game for you guys on this one. No jokes, because this is pure excitement. I cast this game last night for the TLO Holdout challenge, but it ended up being so good, I figured we should probably go back and do it live. Namely because I mispronounced his name many times, but to the top middle side of purity and industry, challenging TLO in this best of one situation, we have the famous Zerg player Rainer's younger brother, the Green Terran, BabyMarine. And his opponent to the right middle is, of course, the Team Liquid badass, the one and only TLO. Now, a quick little catch up on what this is and what it's from. The TLO Holdout Challenge was an event we hosted where we invited a bunch of noobs in chat to come play against TLO. And part of it was leaving an open sign up so anybody could show up to play, just if you happen to get in first come, first serve. BabyMarine was in the waits. He waited nearly 3 hours to get in. I believe by the time this game actually played out, it was approximately 4 a.m. in Italy. And I thought, okay, let's give him a shot. He wants to take it kind of seriously, so he asks TLO if they can play on Europe. TLO agrees, and that's how we get into this best of one. Now, in terms of the tournament we were hosting, the goal is actually not to beat TLO. It's actually to survive as long as possible. So, turtle up in your main base, we see people float buildings. That's the spirit of the tournament. But because BabyMarine is actually a high-ranking player with, I think, maybe, I want to say it was 5,200 MMR off the top of my head. He's a master level player. He wanted to take it seriously and asked TLO to play his main race, so TLO wasn't goofing around this one. He took it pretty seriously too. And I guess I'll cast this in the moment as I would normally, but just know this was, I'm gonna spoil this real quick, so plug your ears for a hot second or skip like 5 seconds in the video if you don't want to hear it. But here comes the spoiler. 3, 2, 1. You won't believe the way this game ends. So now that we should be back from spoiler territory and spoiler town, we are going to see a pretty normal opening out of BabyMarine. As I said, he wanted to show up and play, and I think his goal was to play a real game versus TLO and not necessarily the Holdout challenge, but show off in the process. We had a bunch of noobs, and some low tier master players actually set some pretty good records. I believe going into this game, the top timer was 15 minutes and 22 seconds, was the longest anyone held out against TLO. Just as a bit of a fun fact there. I don't know if our good guy Will on YouTube will slice together like a highlights reel of the event or something, but hopefully that should get you guys all caught up. Now, in terms of openings for this game, as I just mentioned, there's a pretty regular opening out of BabyMarine. You know, top side of the map, he ends up just taking a command center. He's expanding normally. Reactor on the barracks, gonna get some Hellions. It's very normal Terran things to do. The only thing that's a little abnormal is down here in the bottom right. I had presumed and would assume like, oh, this is the Holdout challenge. He's building buildings around the map to buy time. Or at least that's what I was under the impression of when I was casting it. But this is actually an engineering bay that is really sick for two purposes. One, it blocks the third. I don't believe this was supposed to finish. I believe this was one of those engineering bays that was supposed to be like 99%, right? So you could cancel and get the money back. But whether unintentional or intentional, the engineering bay has concluded and will block out a fast third base for TLO. And TLO, as many of you are aware, is a very powerful macro player. And even against the silvers and the platinums of our tournament event, he would go for 3 bases and play macro, trying to crush them sub 10 minutes with a pretty good economy. So it makes sense that you would want to block it out, especially if you know this is a little bit of an emphasis of what TLO goes for. But oof. The double kill removes the Reapers. They do kill 2 drones on their way out. Engineering bay also goes down. It's not a strong start in terms of resources lost here for BabyMarine. He's also being hit with an immediate counterattack, and these have speed. It's not just normal links, so 2 Hellions alone won't suffice. Some good micro and maybe pulling a couple SCVs would be required. A little scary too, because you can see he starts off not quite paying attention, not at least at the front lines, so one of these Hellions gets very low right off the bat. Almost going down here. Seriously has 10 health. There we go. Links take it out. SCVs are shuffled and stacked, and the 2 remaining Hellions come from the reinforcement point. And this is going to hold. This won't get too out of hand. Honestly, for TLO, though, I think he was hoping to get a little bit more scouting out of this. You see these Zerglings and the Overlord kind of bump up against the ramp to see what the follow-up tech buildings were. And seeing the starport swap onto a tech lab is usually pretty indicative of a Banshee of some variety. This is going to have cloak researching, but very rarely do we see Ravens be a priority for Terran in this case. TLO on the other hand is going for a lair, and I like this for a couple of different reasons. One is, again, with the Spirit of the Holdout challenge, we had a lot of challengers pick this map and fly island bases over here on Purity and Industry, something a Terran would have no problem doing. So having the Spire helps limit that being a problem, but it's also just normal for TLO to play this way. Laying, Banling, Mutalisk. We've seen all our favorite pros do it at some point. It's a pretty common build. I was gonna chip away at the Overlord. Unfortunately, the Scout was already revealed though, and seeing that Tech Lab spinning, I mean, it's either a bluff or a commitment. You either let the Cloak finish up and you go for 2 Banshees and try to target some drones down, or you cancel it and just accept the fact that you were scouted, and it's probably not gonna work out because TLO will have Spore Crawlers and Queens, or in this case, Mutalisks. So the Banshees are still gonna try to go through with this. The Overlord actually got a really good scout. I don't think you saw the actual Banshee move out, but first Banshee is heading across the field. Overseers are here for detection, so you can see TL is really not too worried about that being a problem. But there is another problem, and it's the fact that there's not only going to be a Banshee hitting the main base, there's like 6 or 7 Hellions running through the natural. A little spooky at first because BabyMarine takes a lot of heat on that first Hellion, ironically enough for the Queens, not the other way around. But does run into the mineral line, starts frying up some drones. 6 workers, 7 workers, maybe more. 9 workers go down to this, and the Banshee, of course, has been shooed off, so sadly, there's nothing really cool to report over here. She's chilling on the island. But the Hellions die, grab 9 workers. He saw the Spire with this too, so BabyMarine should know what he's coming up against next. However, I don't think this will change his plans too much because he was already going bio in the first place. You can see Stims finishing up in 10 seconds. So it won't be a question of like, will he be able to handle the Mutas? He absolutely will be able to handle the Mutas. The real question is, how is he going to deal with what's on the ground through Banelings, Zerglings, or whatever? Now, it's a one-shot on the workers, which is a pretty nice little 1-2 punch there, but with the Mutas already coming, sadly, this is pretty much the end of the life expectancy for these Banshees. They nearly escaped thanks to Cloak, actually. That Overseer veered off in the wrong direction. And TLO says rather than chase them, he'd rather go for the immediate counterattack. Something that's going to hit just before the southern missile turret's done, but he does already have a missile turret in his mineral line, and I believe there's one over here as well. So he's pretty well covered. These Mutas won't snowball out of control, but they are going to be annoying to deal with, as all good Mutas are. Now, there's actually Burrow being researched, something you don't see too often.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
It'd be fun to see. TL is very good at burrowing Banelings on the fly. He's one of the probably best players at sneaking it in mid-combat. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you are unfortunately unlucky. You've never seen TLO pull it off. He does it really well. So we're going to see a little bit of that here with BabyMarine. Banling speeds just started up as well. The second Banshee managed to outrun the Overseer for a little bit, so you see it's getting some pretty good damage done. I'm both surprised and not that TLO didn't go for Spore Crawlers. In a normal game in a tournament, I don't think he would ever risk not playing around Spores. While this went on, by the way, sorry, we can go back in time. It's a replay. Mute is clean up the SCVs here in the top left. That's where those workers dead for the Terran come from. But yeah, so it's one of those things where this for TLO is perfectly fine. Everything that's going on, like he's playing a little bit greedy by not having Spore Crawlers in every mineral line, but he's cleaned up the damage. So this Banshee, I mean, he grabs a couple more kills, fantastic. But as you can see, he pays that back in kind and then some. That transfer out of BabyMarine was just unfortunately timed. He is going to try to grab one Muta on the way out. Sadly, we'll just barely not be able to pull that off. Creep spread's pretty moderate, actually. With all the harassment TLO's been dealing with, plus dishing out on his own, he hasn't had the time to spread a lot of creep. So we're coming up in 8 minutes, and it's not terrible, but he certainly doesn't have this exactly encroaching on BabyMarine's side of the field yet. I want to give a little bit of a mid-game shout out to TLO, by the way. He's an excellent sport for this whole event. We played something close to 23 games over the course of like 4 hours with him, and it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to do more of these. I hope we'll get to see him again in the future too. Yeah, drilling class is on the way. This can help Widowmines a ton. The instant burrow increases the chance to even get a shot off versus the Mutas, but also the fact that they'll stay cloaked, meaning there'll be a little bit more emphasis on TLO having some detection readily available at all times. Still though, the Mutas are actually pulling off a maneuver that you usually see Terran do. It's supposed to be Terran players, you know, via drops and run-bys doing lots of little cost-effective engagements, but that's not actually what's been happening here. And so TLO has not accomplished a lot of damage, but he's been very cost efficient with the way he's been playing. You can see always displayed in the bottom right, the resources lost. I'll show you right here too. I mean, the worker deaths have been pretty funny for both as well. Nothing too overwhelming, I'd say. But this push out of BabyMarine, it's 3 bases, so not 2 bases, so it doesn't have that sick timing. But this is a considerable amount of Marines. And going back to the fact that TLO doesn't have a lot of creep spread, oh, He does have some burrowed banelings off the creep though. This may have been intentional in terms of having worse creep spread, because the idea is that Terran players will always scan your creep to clean it up. Maybe, just maybe, we see these banelings get a big hit. Oh, I'm actually just totally teasing you guys. I'll spoil it. These banelings never go off throughout the course of the game. Feels a little bad, man. But we're going to see some cool stuff. Don't worry. Thors are out now too, so sun's out, guns out. These will certainly help deal with the mutas, and they'll be able to soak some of those banelings. But there's not a lot of medevac support or healing. So while there's a really excellent attack, going on down here out of BabyMarine, setting up around this base, there's actually nothing funny enough at home for TLO to defend this. So he has, perhaps unknowingly, initiated a base trade. Title of the channel, by the way. No big deal. It's kind of cool when it happens. Base trade on base trade. But the Bailey's going to hit in, hit a lot of these SCVs. This Bailey over here also going to help out just clean up what's left. Meanwhile, on the other side of the field, a base has already gone down, and TLO soon to lose his own drones. It's a little bit slower to the start for BabyMarine, but you have to remember, TLO exhausted a lot of his units here. Right? A lot of Zerglings, a lot of Banelings, they're actually just dead and gone. Meanwhile, what's left at home is certainly not enough to stop the push out of BabyMarine. Another hatchery goes down, and there's like a couple of spine crawlers. These will buy him some serious time, and TLO needs to buy all the time in the world right now, because he does not have any Banelings to really fight with. He hardly has any units on his side of the field. All the reinforcements have gone across the map to continue dedicating hard to this base trade. And once again, we have a couple of burrowed Banelings. If there's no scans out of BabyMarine, these could get some pretty juicy hits. Denied once again. The contamination on the barracks stunts the production here of BabyMarine, which is kind of funny to see as well. But Baneling's being used on Marines. You know what? It's not too bad in this situation, because it just needs to keep these reinforcements from stopping the Lings. SCVs are going down. Drones are dying. It's looking real grim for TLO. And the question we all had in our minds at the time of this game is, will our pro player actually lose one of his matches today? It's not unheard of. In the previous Holdout challenge, we actually had a player defeat Parting. So, while it's expected that the pros win, it's certainly not guaranteed. And anyone who's ever seen one of these base trades, it's really tough to call. TLO has a lot of army on the other side of the field. Back at home, he's just held up in his main with 52 workers. 52 out of 8. That's a nasty saturation. But look at this. The army marching up to the top of the ramp is 32 Marines, 2 siege tanks, which, by the way, have a fair bit of kills on them. There's nothing to stop TLO from destroying BabyMarine. He is totally devastated and demolished back on his side of the field. It is all in base trade territory. The question is who comes out ahead. And right now, the one thing I'd really like to highlight with this pause is that this command center is floating, this command center is out of energy, and so is this one. And BabyMarine has just barely missed the scan on 4 burrowed Banelings. Now those tanks are going to be really key. It's going to keep any units from pulling into this. You can't just throw a couple drones or Marines or Zerglings, anything into that fight with the tanks right back door. You see that happen right there. They just get obliterated right away. So TLO pulls back with the drones. He's going to try and buy some time. If he can get these Banelings to hit any number of the Marines, just shave off even a couple, then maybe the drones can get in there to fight. But while this goes on, TLO has set a lot of these buildings on fire. There won't be recovery from BabyMarine in this game. And the Zerglings that spawn just funnel to their death. Not even friendly firing. Now this is, again, a very harrowing situation. Each of these buildings, when they die, will turn into broodlings. That could maybe give a little bit of damage, but for the most part, there's no real way to fight these unless he can hit those Banelings! And remember, for BabyMarine at this point, every command center is in the sky currently. Not a single one on the ground. No scans. And no reason to suspect there's burrowed Banelings here, because what an unconventional location for burrowed Banelings. But he steps forward, and patience pays off. TLO gets a massive hit. Half the Marines go down immediately. This leaves 2 siege tanks, which have 27 and 20 kills between them. But right now, as you can see, TLO is trying to bait BabyMarine to step onto the other Banelings. He doesn't know they're there. Just a little bit closer, and it's going to be the end of the rest of the Marines. And he steps a little too close. Big Baneling hits go down, and it's just siege tanks remaining. A couple of tank shots fire, but now everything's in the dead zone. These tanks can't fight back. He unsieges the siege tanks to try and save them. Quick pickup in the medevac barely keeps them alive. An island base has been set up over here. Mutas are on top of this, so there's no chance to rebuild whatsoever. This command center may have a chance to build an SCV or 2, but TLO successfully transfers the drones past the siege tanks and now puts them back to mining. Soon, to try and get some money, maybe, just maybe, could build some Zerglings to deal with what's left. But as far as the units left on the field, it is literally this for BabyMarine. 2 siege tanks and a medevac. No chance to heal, no chance to repair. Fighting against 3 queens with transfuses. I'm sorry, but as cool as the micro is going to be on this medevac, I'm sure nothing's going to out micro this much transfuse energy. Meanwhile, every building in the sky is pretty much on fire. TLO is segmented like 1 muted per base just to make sure they all go down. And the clock does tick. We still have these Bailings over here, and BabyMarine is tapping out at this point. But remember, the goal of this tournament was to survive as long as possible. So he doesn't actually want to leave, even if he's politely acknowledging that the game is definitely over. I love setting the siege tanks up here on the high ground. Not sieging them up keeps them from being vulnerable. 8 health on one, 15 on the other, 36 and 34 kills. That Rifkin guy couldn't believe what he was seeing when this game was live. But he picks up the tanks once again. It's like watching a Protoss player. It's like watching Parting juggle units like stalkers through his Warp Prism. And these tanks, 37 kills on one, 40 on the other. Refuses to let these drones touch him. And I kind of always forget, siege tanks actually have pretty good single target damage even when on siege because their attack speed is really quick. But knocking down what he does, it still is no chance to survive. This is all just buying precious seconds of time in, because while this goes on, buildings are burning down and BabyMarine is losing structures. And it doesn't matter what he does with or without these tanks. Oh, he did just lose one. Because once all buildings are removed from play, that's it. That's the game. I believe the command center, yeah, this barracks lands, but it's on fire. I believe the CC is the last thing standing. So 3, 2, 1. GG. 14:42 on the clock for BabyMarine. I hope you guys enjoyed this YouTube exclusive. Make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you on the next one.